everyone, this is David, Paladin on Korgath. Gonna go through a couple guides as to prop pally tanking and the style of gameplay that I have, and to hopefully help some of you in picking the right tank class. Right now, Paladins aren't really at the top of the charts when it comes to tanking and mitigation. Oop, pressed the wrong button there. But what happens with Paladins, they're very strong on multiple target tanking. When it comes to single target tanking, obviously the warriors have the most mitigation abilities to be able to handle with all that. But Paladins, I think, come out on top when it comes to AoE tanking, because of all the abilities that they have that affect so many targets at once. And this whole guide will just go through all of it, and we'll talk about some of the abilities and what to use in what situations and what not to, and we'll just go through step by step as to what my rotation is, because there really isn't a based rotation. There are a couple things that you use consistently. We'll go through all that here. So right now I'm just in the middle of a heroic. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just doing this just to do it. The talents I'm running, I have the talent bars up if you couldn't see that. Blessed Hammer is a really good ability for AoE as well as single target because, well, the damage reduction is 12%. It's pretty significant. Even though it's only 12% on one hit, that 12% can save your life. And it's actually very good on keeping aggro, especially if you're running and making some large pools like I'm doing here. I can put a hammer down and then just keep running. And then it protects my group in the back. Next main ability the Paladins have, really, or that I would recommend on the second row of talents, would be the Avengers, or First Avenger. Now, you have a talent inside of your prop weapon. Okay, here it is. That it does AoE damage whenever you hit a target. And it's based off of the damage that you do with, well, your shield. Now, the Bulwark here, this is how a lot of healing happens. Shields you for 50% of the damage you deal with your shield, so being that this talent allows it to do 50% more damage, that's 50% more of a bubble you're getting, which is very recommended, because that's a lot of healing. Like, let's see what it's doing right now. Yeah, right now I'm almost as high as the healer on the heals charts. And Bulwark of the Order, which is that gold talent, is my top heal by a lot. Well, pretty close. The next talent that I run on the third tier for the 45 is Blinding Light. Now, some people do suggest using the Fist ability, Fist of Justice, but I don't like it that much because I don't find myself using it as often as the other ability. Why is this guy's pet taunt on? But Blinding Light is so good on AoE fights. One, because of the disorientation, and two, it does damage too, which is also pretty helpful. Now, there is a lot that a Paladin can do to also DPS. Right now, it's a heroic and I'm pretty geared, but I'm still doing top damage in this group. Stat priorities for prop Paladins, haste is the top, because the quicker your haste, the quicker you can use the Blessed Hammers, which means less damage. The quicker you could use your Avenger's Shield, which is less damage and more healing. Has no effect on Blinding Light, unfortunately. But Blinding Light, you'll see here with this next pool. I'll show you what it can do. It's pretty nifty. I like it. I enjoy it. Let's go in. Now, these guys here will start casting something, so whenever I want to use Blinding Light, it'll interrupt their cast, like, boom, disorients them. It's a free interrupt. It's very good on people that cannot be interrupted, just like these Blossoms. The only way to interrupt them is through a stun or a disorient. So it's pretty handy to have. Now, you may see me using hammers just randomly to try and refresh my Avenger's Shield. I like to do that. That's just a personal preference of mine. But there's a percentage chance of you resetting Avenger's Shield with using a hammer ability. So that's why you always see me casting hammers. Now, Mitigation, Prop Paladins have kind of one active mitigation ability. It's called the Shield of Righteousness, and I'll get back to the talents here shortly. But Shield of Righteousness, it's kind of complicated, but at the same time, it's kind of not. You slam your target, doing damage, and right now, depending on the mastery, I get damage reduced by, well, 53, but now 43%. And that is all based on your mastery. So I like to go mastery second as the top stat. So haste would be the first, and then mastery would be my second preferred stat. And other people, Icy Veins, may all do it differently, but this is what I feel that works, and these are just my opinions. Going back to the mitigation, you only get 3 charges of it maximum the way that Paladins play now, or should play. And they only last for 4 seconds each, and they can stack. Like, what, 4... I got 6 because I used it again. And you see it jumping on the timer down here at the bottom, and I'll explain why in just a little bit here, too. But having it up is pretty handy because I barely take any damage whenever it's up, and you always have to make sure you're timing that with boss cooldowns, especially when you're tanking. Go, go, go. Okay. So what is going to happen next with the talents? This next one is kind of a preference on you and kind of what you're dealing with on a boss encounter or boss fights. The next talent is called the Blessing of Spell Warding. I absolutely love this ability because this ability is just so handy to have. It doesn't make you lose any aggro if you bop somebody with it, and all damage is mitigated 100% while it's on you. The nice thing is you could put it on somebody else. So I could put it on one of my teammates here, group members, and they would take no damage, which is nice. Now, me being a bad prop paladin right now, I'm not standing in my consecrate when I should. My abilities are much more stronger, as well as my healing is much more stronger in my consecrate. So that's just something that prop paladins need to make sure that they always do. Always, always, always stand in your consecrate. That's your lifeline. 4, 3, 2, 1. Cavalier's good, having 2 divine steeds, but I don't use it all that much because groups go on my pace, I don't go on theirs. Retribution Aura is decent, but I really wouldn't recommend it unless you're PvPing as prod in Battlegrounds or so. That's the only way I could ever really see anybody using it. Hand of the Protector on the 75 row is the best in most situations, and I'll explain why. Hand of the Protector, without it, gives you a different spell. If you don't have it, you have a different spell that instead of it being an 8-second cooldown, it's like a 14, 15-second cooldown. And that just is not bueno. And you could also use it on other people. So it's all based on health percentage. So right now, if I have it, if I cast it on somebody, it increases, or it heals them for 32% of their health. But if I have Consecrate down, it goes up to 41% of their health. Missing health, I should say. So the lower your target on the damage or on health, the more healing it does, which is pretty nice. It's good for saving moments. So I would highly recommend taking that. Now there are some encounters where you may need the Aoe Taunt ability. It's the bubble Aoe Taunt. It's called Final Stand. I like it whenever you're doing some mythic pluses because necrotic. I don't know if you may or may not have done some high-end level mythic pluses that are 7 or above. You may have had necrotic as one of your afflictions, whatever it's called. But having both the spell warding and the AoE taunt is so helpful to have inside of those mythic pluses because you don't lose aggro, you can drop all your stacks, and it's just very helpful to have in necrotic. So that's why I think Paladin tanks are one of the best tanks to have for some mythic pluses. The more mobs, the more procs that you have for cooldowns. The next talent I like to use is Judgment of the Light. There's another one I've been recently playing around with, the Aegis of Light. It's the kind of an AoE protection ability for your group. I only use it on one boss fight in the new Nighthold raid, and that's just because I want to do something. The third boss, no, the second boss, Chromagus, I think his name is. Let's see real quick. Chromatic Anomaly. On that fight, there's a part where everybody's just stacked on the boss and damaging him while he pulses AoE damage, and it gets stronger and stronger the longer he pulsates. Well, what I like to do is take this Aegis of Light ability right here and just cast it and spam it as much as I possibly can on the group whenever it comes to the stacking part, just to reduce the damage. But in other cases, I prefer to use Judgment of the Light. It puts a nice little debuff on my target. You see this here. Attackers are healed for a little over 8,000. That's melee attacks. Melee or hunter bows. Physical damage. There we go. That's what I was looking for. So that's what I would recommend for the 90 talents, the Judgment of Light. It's very handy to have because you could have it. I have it on multiple people right now. I have it on 2 targets so that if there's AoEs going out, I can, well, do a little bit of healing and help the healers out. And that's also affected by your Avenger's Wrath, which increases your healing done by 85%, which is ridiculous. Now, the third row of talents, there's a lot of situations where you may want to change it up. Normally in dungeons, I run Seraphim just because I just want a DBS. It's great for Prop Paladin DBSing for non-serious encounters. Right now, I'm running Righteous Protector, so anytime I use my active mitigation ability, that Shield of Righteous, my wings, my Avenger's Wrath, is reduced by 33 seconds. So if I have 3 charges of my Shield of Righteous, I use it, boom, boom, boom. Well, great, I have a lot of time on my damage mitigation, but I also just knocked off 9 seconds of Avenging Wrath. So, I highly recommend taking that ability because it works so nicely with other abilities. Anytime I judge right now, you can see that the Shield of Righteousness is reduced. That's also with your talents on your shield, which is nice. Very nice to have. So that means even more uptime on your damage mitigation and less time on your Avenging Wrath that you have to wait. Now, Last Defender's pretty nice if you're doing some Mythic pluses because of the damage mitigation. There are diminishing returns, though, which are very diminishing. There's a certain amount of mobs that you can get before it really doesn't do a thing to you. Ooh, look at that. Warforged Trinket. Never even seen that before. Interesting. So, those are the talents, and I talked about a couple of the spells here. In my next video, I'll go through with what kind of rotation that we're looking at. But I hope you enjoyed and got a little bit of information from the talents here that I run. If you have any questions, you can always send me an in-game. Send me a message. I'll try and respond to it as quick as I can. Maybe even add you just so I can take you in and show you what I do in person. Thank you for watching my video, and don't forget to subscribe. Just starting all this out, so this will be fun.